Hey there, I'm Caleb Elkroom, and I've personally transitioned from the corporate world to establishing a seven-figure SEO agency. Along the way, I've guided hundreds of fellow entrepreneurs and helped them build their own six-figure SEO agencies. Now, most of them had absolutely no idea how to do SEO. They're an absolute beginner starting from zero. And honestly, that's where I was when I started my own journey almost 10 years ago. Over the years of helping all of these other entrepreneurs, I get asked a lot of questions. So what I wanted to do in this video is cover the top 6 questions that I hear over and over again over the years about how to build, scale, and grow an SEO agency. So if you're just getting started, these questions are probably going to sound familiar. So let's go ahead and get started. The first question, how do I acquire new clients for my SEO agency? Now, this is clearly a big one, right? If you don't have clients, you don't really have a business. But it all starts with getting those first few clients. And honestly, the first one is the hardest. Every client you get makes the next client a little bit easier. In the short term, when you're just getting started, thinking about getting your first client, if you enjoy talking with people, meeting with people, in-person networking events can be very helpful. Chamber of Commerce. Join your local Chamber of Commerce, attend every single event that they have, and talk to people at those events about SEO, about what you do. Doing this consistently for just a few months, you can start to land some local clients who need SEO marketing services. Another really good one is cold email outreach, another low-cost way to start to land clients. Simply get a Loom account, get a low-cost email service like Gmass, and start sending personalized emails, 5 to 10 a day. Don't do mass emails to a cold audience. I'm not talking about sending thousands and thousands of emails, just 5 to 10 a day with personalized Loom recordings, showing their website, talking about what you would change, what you would improve. The reason I recommend Loom is because Loom will actually notify you when someone watches the video that you send with a link. So then you know if people are actually watching it, which can be super helpful. And you can send more follow-up messages once you get the notification that your initial video has been watched. Mass emailing a cold audience, that's gotten a little tricky in the last few months. A lot of new regulations have popped up. I don't recommend that. These small personalized ones work best. And of course, Upwork. For me, Upwork was the best way that I found to land clients for my agency. I tried all the other ones that I mentioned and they work, but Upwork was the best for me. Essentially, I built a 7-figure agency by sending proposals on Upwork. And hundreds in my training program have also built 6-figure agencies on Upwork, okay? Do not sleep on Upwork. Simply sending proposals to people who already want SEO, people who have said, I need SEO services. They'll post a job asking for SEO services. Then all you need to do is send them a proposal and say, yeah, I can do SEO. It takes time. It's not necessarily easy. It takes consistency and discipline, but honestly, so do the other ones. And essentially, in my experience, the sale, when you get on the phone with someone from Upwork, the sale is easier because that person, that potential client, has already decided that they want your service, right? They already know they want SEO, or they wouldn't have posted a job about SEO, asking for SEO on Upwork. And check out the rest of this YouTube channel. I have a lot of videos giving guidance on how to use Upwork to grow your agency. Now, those are the quick ways. And that's how I recommend everyone get started at landing those first few clients. Once you get those and you start having cash flow coming in, then it's time to start building your brand on social media. So share your expertise on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the above. The more expertise you can share, the bigger your brand following will get, and that will allow you to grow your agency past 6 figures into 7 or even beyond that. Additionally, a very common tactic among major SEO personalities is to start your own blog where you talk about different SEO tactics, split tests that you've done, case studies that you've done, giving SEO advice on how your readers can do the same thing. But there's a trick to it. You have to make sure that the SEO advice seems just complicated enough that most of the people reading your blog would rather just hire you to do it for them instead of doing it themselves. So you have to walk that fine line between giving enough advice that it's valuable and people will read it, but not so much advice that they can run off and do it themselves, right? Your goal with that blog, with all of your branding, is to get more clients to your SEO agency. That's not actually my goal here, so don't worry about that. On top of that, once you have a handful of clients, a really good way to turn that handful of clients into a larger number is to implement a referral program, a generous one, okay? Not like, hey, refer me a client, I'll give you $100 or a gift card at Starbucks, but something like 10% of ongoing charges. That's a generous referral program. But those referral payments, don't think of them as a cost. They're really more of an investment. You still get to keep 90% of the income that's coming in from this referral. So highly recommend generous referral programs. That's how a lot of software as a service, SaaS businesses have also managed to grow quickly by offering really generous, massive affiliate payments. So don't sleep on referrals. Of course, you'll need a few clients to begin with before that really starts to work. Okay, so that's the first question, how to get SEO clients. So once you solve that and you start to have some clients coming in, the next most popular question is, what are the best tools for managing SEO projects, right? Once you get clients, you're expected to actually do SEO for them. Now, I've said this before, you do not need to be an SEO expert to start landing clients. In fact, I would strongly encourage you to do the prospecting before spending a bunch of time learning the eccentricities and details of SEO. You'll learn SEO a lot better, a lot faster by doing it versus just reading and theorizing about it. So once you land that client, you might be a little concerned that you don't actually know how to do very much SEO. So let's briefly touch on the most critical tools that we use at my agency to manage SEO engagements. But I did want to mention, and I'll link to it in the description, I have a whole video on my channel that breaks down in much more detail the exact tools that my agency uses. A lot of them are free, and the ones that aren't free, you don't need them until you start landing clients. Okay, so the first one, gold standard of data, Google Search Console. This is completely free, okay? The Google Search Console data, it's presented in such a way that it can be difficult to analyze where you need to make improvements to get more traffic to improve your ranking. A lot of third-party tools, which are not free, do an excellent job at easily presenting data that makes it very clear how you can grow your traffic. But instead of paying for those third-party tools, I would advise that you pay for ChatGPT 4. It's around $20 a month. And the reason for ChatGPT 4 is because you can download the CSV files from Google Search Console, give them to ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT to do the analysis for you. I also have a video where I break down exactly how to do this and doing several different ways: content optimization, a click-through rate improvement, a content gap analysis, and all of these other ones. So one quick way is if you go to a specific URL in the Search Console, download the CSV of all the queries that URL is indexed for from Google, give that to ChatGPT, and give ChatGPT the content for that page. You can ask ChatGPT to rewrite the content to mention exact match keywords that aren't on the first page yet, but are close. Then when you go in and you edit the content and you add those exact match keywords, we very often will see being moved from the 12th, 13th position up to the 7th or 8th just by adding that exact match keyword in the content. That's something that used to take a lot of time, but now with ChatGPT, we can do it quite quickly, okay? So definitely Google Search Console plus ChatGPT is a very powerful combination and a tool that we use all the time, very, very inexpensive. And of course, the next one I'm going to mention is Google Search itself, also free. Hopefully you're not paying for Google searches. So the reason Google Search is so valuable is for most queries, there's a section called People Also Ask, okay? So when we're trying to improve topical relevance and comprehensiveness with Google's algorithm, we want to add content about topics that Google thinks is relevant to the keyword we want to rank for. Now that's important. We don't want to add content that we think is relevant or that your client thinks is relevant or that you think is relevant. It doesn't matter. What matters is that Google thinks it's relevant, okay? Then we want to add information about that for comprehensiveness, authoritativeness with Google's algorithm. So type your target search query into Google. You'll see the people also ask section. You'll have to click to open and close, open and close. The number of questions will grow, and just go and answer those questions in your content on the page. You can create an FAQ section. You can write supporting content that answers a lot of those questions even more deeply. Again, ChatGPT can be a great help. Check out my other video if you want to see the exact steps on how we do this. Very quick, very helpful in adding a massive amount of topical relevance for Google. On top of that, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the Google search page, you'll see related searches, related keywords, super helpful to get an idea of what keywords Google thinks are relevant. On top of that, once you typed your main keyword into Google, I want you to click over to the image search, and right at the top of the page, Google will give you category suggestions. And those category suggestions are another excellent way to see what Google thinks is relevant for your keyword. All these different ways, what we're trying to use Google search for is to get an idea of what Google thinks is relevant so that we can expand upon our comprehensiveness, our topical relevance for that target keyword. We want to always be focused on what Google thinks is relevant. Okay, the third-party tool, the first one I'm going to mention that isn't free is Ahrefs. That's the one we use. It's the best one we've used. If you want to use a different one, go ahead. We like Ahrefs. It's excellent for competitive analysis. Most competitors won't give you access to their Google Search Console. It would be very weird if they did. So you're going to have to rely on something like Ahrefs. An important thing to keep in mind, when you're using Ahrefs, the data is going to be wrong. Okay? Always keep in mind the data from Ahrefs is wrong. If you compare Ahrefs against Search Console, it will be different, and Ahrefs is wrong. Google Search Console is correct. So when you're looking at a competitive analysis with Ahrefs, I always try to compare apples to apples, which means I want to compare my client's Ahrefs data against their competitors' Ahrefs data. I don't want to compare competitive Ahrefs data against my client's Search Console. I want to keep the data source the same, okay? And that will help us figure out what the competitors are doing that we can mimic and do slightly better to drive more rank, more traffic. Okay, on top of that, we're going to need a task management tool. We use Asana, and that allows us to make sure that all the tasks that come up, they don't fall through the cracks. My tasks, my team's tasks, it works quite well. Something very simple like Asana. It's not free. Well, there's a free version that we used for years, and I think we actually are still on the free version. So, go ahead and use the free version if that works for you. The paid version isn't super expensive either. There are plenty of other task management tools out there. If Asana doesn't fit for you, that's perfectly fine. A big one, a huge one, we recently started using it and it's absolutely fabulous. Go High Level. We use that for sales pipeline management, client website holding, client website hosting and website management, the GBP management of clients. All of these functions are integrated into High Level. It's absolutely fabulous. One of the things I really like it for is the client management. We can text back and forth with our clients through High Level, and my team members, they can all log into High Level and they can all text the client, and the client sees all of those coming from one phone number for one person. So the client doesn't know that I have 3, 4 people, different people, texting them and answering their questions and helping them solve their issues. They think it's all coming from either their client manager or from me personally, even though most of it isn't. So that is a fabulous feature of High Level on top of all the other things. I will have a video coming out in the near term breaking down exactly how we use Go High Level for an SEO agency. So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. I tell you, High Level for an SEO agency is game changing. It makes it so much easier to create and edit and copy websites between different clients. Very, very powerful. Okay. So we've talked about those tools. We've talked about how to get clients. The third question I get all the time, a really common one, how do I price my SEO services? Okay, especially people who are brand new, they're really struggling. How do I price SEO services? And what I want to start by saying is pricing is really about establishing value. Okay, no one will pay you what they think it's going to be worth, right? People will only pay you less than what they think they're getting. Okay, if they think a book is worth $10, no one will give you $10 for that book. They'll maybe give you $9 for it if they think it's worth $10. So we have to start by establishing value. Now, that's a little bit easier on a service like Upwork, where they've already decided they want SEO. If you're not talking to people from Upwork, you're really going to need to establish the value of SEO before you start talking pricing, okay? And really, one thing to keep in mind when you're talking to business owners, you're not pitching them on SEO. You're offering growth. You're offering more website traffic, more customers, more revenue for them. Now, there are two main ways that you can potentially do pricing for an SEO agency. The first one, I call it black box pricing. So in this black box pricing, the client pays a monthly rate, and then you do things to their website to improve traffic. And if the traffic goes up, the client's happy. If the traffic doesn't go up, the client is mad. But you're not giving them details on what exactly you'll be doing every month, why you'll be doing it. They're really just paying for the black box of SEO. Years ago, that's how we used to price. And I've moved away from it for a variety of reasons that I'll touch on in a second. The second method of pricing, which is what we use today, is scope-based pricing. So we tell the client, this is how many articles we're going to write. This is how many links we're going to source. This is how many pages we're going to optimize, whatever it happens to be. And the client pays a monthly rate for that fixed scope of work. That also allows us to set up good, better, best, where we'll have the lowest option, the good option, and the better option. It's a little bit more expensive, but a lot more scope. Good is the one that we generally want them to choose. That'll usually be for most local businesses in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $2,000 a month. And then, of course, we have the best, which is going to be fabulously expensive. Over the years I've been doing this, we've had a handful of people choose the best option. That's definitely unusual. It's really there to show the good and better options to have their pricing make more sense. It's there as a high price anchor, okay? So the reason that we use scope-based pricing, this is better for long-term retention of clients. The client knows exactly what you're going to be doing. They know why you're going to be doing it. You've explained the basics of why these articles and these content planners and these links, why all of this builds into a successful SEO engagement. And even if the SEO engagement is successful, say you have a local business and you rank them number one in their area for all the relevant keywords they could possibly want to be ranked for. If you're doing black box SEO, they'll often leave because they don't really see any more benefit for paying for SEO when they're ranked number one for everything. This was a problem for us years ago. But with scope-based pricing, they're still getting articles, they're still getting improvements to their website and optimizations, so they're still seeing things that you're doing, which means they're much more likely to stay over the long term, especially if you have a conversation with them that, you know what, SEO is what we call zero sum, meaning any time they gain traffic, it's because one of their competitors is losing traffic. So if their competitors are pushing to get that traffic back or to grow their own business and publishing articles and doing all the things that they should be doing for SEO, and they've stopped, then their competitors are very likely to pass them. So continuing to do all of the things for SEO, new articles, optimization, sourcing links, continuing to do that to cement and keep their number one or number two position in their local area is massively helpful at not losing clients that you've been very successful with. Sounds weird that you can lose clients that you're very successful with, much less common with scope-based pricing. So if you're interested in scope-based pricing, I actually built a tool that we use internally. I'll give it to you guys if you're interested. There'll be a link in the comments, completely free to you, and it's going to help you estimate how to price out a scope-based SEO engagement. Now, it will assume that you're using AI to help you with SEO. I mentioned SEO is zero sum. So what that means is if all of your competition is using AI, then they're probably going to pass you because AI makes SEO cheaper, faster, and better. So you definitely need to start using AI in your SEO engagements if you're not. It's going to be so hard to compete, especially as it becomes more and more common as we move forward. So you should definitely be using my free pricing tool, assumes that you are. For reference, we used to price out websites. Say if you wanted a 20-page website with 50,000 words of content on it, 3 or 4 years ago, before ChatGPT, that was a $5,000 to $10,000 website. And today, we can build that website for around $300. So a massive decrease in how much content costs. Content used to be very expensive. It's now essentially free. So that has massively changed how we approach SEO and how we approach target keywords. So as I said, link in the description if you want to grab that free tool to help you with scope-based pricing. All right, moving right along. Our fourth question, how can I ensure client satisfaction and retention? So this is a great question. You started to land some clients. You have an idea how to price it. You have an idea how to do SEO, but how do you make sure your clients stay happy and they keep paying you over the long term? And honestly, the number one way that I have found over the years is quick wins, okay? A lot of people think SEO can take 9, 10, 11 months, even a year before they start seeing results. And I tell you, if you take 3, 4, or 5 months with no results, you're not likely going to keep your clients much beyond that. So instead, what you need to think about is how to deliver quick wins, okay? How can you demonstrate strong traffic growth in the first 1 or 2 months? And what we have found, the way we do that, we leverage what we refer to as low-hanging fruit. So what that means is we're going to use Search Console data and ChatGPT to identify keywords that they're on the second page for, and we're going to work to push those keywords onto the first page. And that way, if we take a keyword where they're ranked number 11, the first result on the second page, and we can push it to the 7th position, the traffic from that keyword is going to explode. Whereas if we just start optimizing without any real plan, maybe there's a keyword that they're, in the 80th or 90th position, and we do a bunch of really good SEO work, and we push it to the 15th position, they won't see any more traffic, okay? So this low-hanging fruit, we want to find keywords that they're almost ranking for and focus on them. And we can do that in a month or two, show them strong initial results, and then we'll likely have a long-term client who will be really happy to work with us. On top of that, you'll want to do a minimum of monthly reporting, okay? Don't stretch it out beyond monthly. And when I say monthly reporting, what I mean is really, really simple reporting. We don't want to overwhelm our clients with data. You just want to tell them what you did in the last month, how traffic did, how the keyword rank did, if it's local, how many calls they got, and what you're going to do next month. Our monthly reports are literally 4 or 5 pages, not any longer than that. Your real goal in monthly reports is to build trust with your client and demonstrate the results and value that you're giving them. You are not trying to vomit a bunch of data at them, okay? That doesn't build trust. They won't understand it. They won't take the time to comprehend what you're saying, and that's fine. Your best clients are very, very busy. They don't have time to sift through 30 pages of SEO data. Make it short, make it simple, make it easy to understand how valuable what you're doing is to them. And for each of those monthly reports, you're going to want to schedule a 1-hour meeting with them over the phone, in person if they're local, and walk them through that monthly report. Make sure they have an idea of how valuable what you're doing is to them, that you're building that trust. Most of the time, I try not to speak to clients except for that 1 hour each month to go over their monthly reports. Now, you will need to communicate with your clients at least every week for the first 3 to 6 months. I don't mean get on the phone with them. In my experience, every time I get on the phone with a client, even if it's something quick, it's an hour-long conversation. And I just don't have time to do that on a very frequent basis. But after a new client hires you, you can't go crickets on them, okay? You need to be frequently communicating with them, even just a quick email or a quick text on what's going on, what you did the last week, any quick wins, what you plan on doing the next week, okay? The worst thing you can do is take a bunch of money, take $2,000 from a client who is interested in starting to do SEO, and then not saying a word to them for a month, okay? That is a really bad look for you, and you're likely going to lose those clients. Another reason that I really like this scope-based pricing is similar to this, okay? No one controls Google, and every once in a while, not very often, but every once in a while, we'll do everything right. We'll do all the SEO things that should work, and sometimes it takes time before it works, okay? Sometimes we're not able to deliver those quick results. But by keeping this communication frequent and constantly letting the client know what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's going on. Not seeing traffic growth doesn't always result in ending the engagement. In fact, it usually doesn't, as long as we're frequent with our communication and we have this scope-based pricing so that we're still delivering everything that we said we would deliver to them. Whereas, of course, if you're using black box pricing and there is no traffic growth, the client doesn't know if you're doing anything or just taking their money and, watching Game of Thrones reruns or something. So in that case, you're very likely to lose your client if you can't demonstrate very quick and strong early results. And like I said, right, sometimes, every once in a while, something won't go right. And in those cases, honesty, transparency, don't try to hide anything, take the blames for mistakes. Frankly, even if the mistake was caused by the client, say that you sent them content to review and they sat on it for 2 months, you still need to take the blame for that. You'll never be able to convince a client that not having traffic growth in SEO is their fault, okay? That will not work. Just take the blame, apologize for it, explain how it won't happen again in the future, and move on, okay? So as an example, whenever I send clients content for their review, I actually have a shortcut in my Microsoft Outlook so that whenever I send an email with an attachment for content, my Outlook will automatically create a to-do item for 1 week later that will remind me to make sure the client has actually reviewed and sent the content back. That way I don't forget about it. I don't sit for months and waiting to hear back from the client and they forgot about it and I forgot about it. And then the client is mad because nothing happened. And yeah, okay, it's not really my fault because I sent it and they didn't review it. But you know what? I'll take the blame and then implement a method so it doesn't happen again in the future. So always make sure you think about it that way. So the next question, once you're getting here, is how do I scale my SEO agency? You know how to get clients, you know how to do SEO, you're keeping your clients happy. So now we're talking about scaling. And the first step, not surprisingly, is going to be growing your team. You can probably do an SEO agency as a one-person show up to somewhere in the $10,000 to $20,000 a month range. But at some point in there, you're going to need help, okay? And my top piece of advice when hiring a team member, when growing your team, is to not hire someone who says they're an expert in SEO. If they say they're an expert in SEO, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. In either case, you're likely going to need to detrain them first. You've built your agency to where it is. You've done successful SEO engagements. You know how to do SEO. You have a specific method that you use for SEO. If you bring someone else in who's an SEO expert, they're going to want to do SEO in their way. But you want SEO done your way, not their way. So instead, hire motivated people that are used to working with language, okay? That might sound a little weird, but it makes sense. A lot of SEO is language. Now, my best long-term employees have been former newspaper editors. Seems really strange, but they're really familiar with language. They're familiar with how to write headlines that catch people's attention. So then you're going to bring them on board and you're going to train them in how to do SEO. And that's much easier if they have a background in something like newspaper editing. And in fact, I have a comprehensive SEO master course, but it's largely based on internal training that I developed for my own team. So for every task that needs to be done in SEO, I would write down each individual step of it in an Excel sheet. Each row is a specific step. The first column is going to be a brief title about it, second one a description, and the third one is going to be a link to a video where I do that step. And then the fourth one, I'm going to give any login information they might need or the ChatGPT prompt or anything else that they might need to be able to do that. Now, those video recordings, they're broken down into small steps. So each of those video recordings are 30, 45 seconds long, no longer. If there's a 5-minute video, then I need to break that down into more steps to make it easy and simple to follow. I have a few hundred members in my training program, and everyone who joins gets full access to all of that internal training. You don't need it. You can build it on your own as you learn how to do SEO, but it can be a helpful shortcut if that's something you're interested in. And on top of that, to help you scale your SEO agency, It's important to find trustworthy sources where you can outsource specific SEO tasks, especially tasks that can be difficult or time-consuming to either train or do. Examples of that would be link building, citation building, manual walkthroughs, things of that sort that are very specific tasks that just take a lot of effort to get done. And if you have a trustworthy source, you can simply buy them and then not have to worry about them. The source that we use at my agency, I'll put a link to that in the description below. I talked about this briefly when I was talking about the tools that we use, but especially as you start to grow your team, you're going to need Asana or some other program for task management. That will allow you to track everything that's going on, that needs to be done, the deadlines. If you don't have something like this, it's very quickly going to become a nightmare to try to figure out who's doing what for which client, okay? Task management software is going to let you sort things by client, by task, create monthly recurring tasks. Most of the time at my agency, everything we do in SEO is basically a monthly recurring. At the beginning of the month, we have a variety of strategies that we need to decide upon. And by the end of the month, we're done with writing the content, posting the content, sourcing the links, and it's time at the beginning of the next month to do it again, okay? So that's how we function, and that type of task management software is vital to keep track of everything. If you have 1 or 2 clients, you might not need it, but especially as you start to scale your agency and grow your team, it becomes critical. On top of that, if you can combine Asana and Zapier, probably other task management softwares too, but Asana plus Zapier allows automatic communication to any team members via email, messaging app, or if you have team members that you've hired on Upwork, you can actually link Asana to directly message the Upwork chat rooms with Zapier. Okay, so the last question I'm going to cover here, the 6th question, how do you deal with difficult clients or projects that didn't quite go as planned? I briefly touched on this before, but let me address this more head on. Now, the first thing, of course, I'm going to say is that if you're pricing it scope-based, it makes it a lot easier, okay? You said you're going to provide a certain scope of work, and assuming, of course, that you delivered the scope of work you said you would, then this conversation is going to be quite a bit easier. You can always blame Google. Maybe there was an algorithm update, something like that. Don't make it up, but there's a lot of algorithm updates that happen on a regular basis. So it'd be pretty easy to look up an algorithm update, familiarize yourself with it, and then talk about how that impacted the traffic growth plans. But on top of that, at the beginning of the engagement, you need to set clear expectations. So I talked about how we use low-hanging fruit to deliver traffic in the first month or 2. But we don't tell clients that they can expect to see a massive increase in traffic in the first month, right? We still give a 3 to 4 month timeline, knowing that by identifying and focusing on the low-hanging fruit, we're going to beat that timeline by several months. But so the reason we do that is we want expectations to be very, very clear. We want to under-promise what we're going to be able to do, and then we want to over-deliver. That's how we make clients happy. That's how we keep them satisfied over the long term. If it's been 5-6 months and we have yet to deliver a traffic increase, then we're going to start having difficult conversations with that client. We can talk about what happened, why they haven't seen traffic growth. There's almost always a good reason why they haven't seen it. And it's almost always our fault, okay? As I said before, we never try to convince our clients that they've done something wrong. We identify what happened, what went wrong, we apologize for it, and talk about how we're going to adjust what we're doing so it doesn't happen again. This clear and transparent monthly reporting is a big part of that also. Never go more than a month without talking to your client. If they're a new client, don't go more than a week without talking to them. And when we're doing this monthly reporting, one thing that we'll often do is month over month performance was very, very strong. Like we saw a 40-50% increase in traffic month over month. Sometimes we'll actually underreport the current month so that we can account for potential slowdowns in the future and still be accurate, right? We don't want to over-report how much traffic they're getting. So if they didn't grow in month 3, we're not going to report that they did. But if they grew 60% in month 1 and we haven't quite reported all of that, we can report a small continued uptick in the future months, okay? And anytime something goes wrong, really honestly start by apologizing. There's so few apologizes in the business world that a simple apology can go a long way toward rebuilding trust and a relationship with your client. And the third step in that apology is to talk about what you're going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. I've seen a lot of different advice on this, but one thing for us at our agency, we don't use long-term clients. Everything is month to month. If a client is suddenly unhappy with our services, then all they need to do is give us a month's heads up and they can cancel. Some of my friends have SEO agency and they demand long-term contracts. The reason we don't is it can be a lot harder to land the client if there's a long-term contract. I'd rather bring them on board and demonstrate how quickly we're going to grow their traffic for them and let them stay on when we demonstrate success. Okay, so hopefully the answers to those questions about growing your SEO agency, hopefully you found those valuable. And really, let's back up a little bit. You want to start building your agency with something relatively quick, relatively low cost. That means Upwork, personalized cold email, in-person Chamber of Commerce events, or things similar to that. Something fast, direct, low cost, okay? All of those options are going to cost you under $100 a month, and that's if you did all of them, okay? And remember, this all requires consistency and discipline, whichever method you choose, and maybe you've chosen all three of them. Good for you, but don't go to one Chamber of Commerce event, you don't get any clients, and then you stop going, okay? Like everything else, it takes consistency. If you go to Chamber of Commerce events, every single one they host, you'll start to make friends there. And those friends are business owners and will become clients of yours. Once you start to have cash flow coming in, think about reinvesting at least 15 to 20% of that free cash flow in building your brand, okay? Build a website, a YouTube channel, a Twitter following, all of the social medias. It's going to take time to build your brand, but over the long term, that brand, that website, the YouTube channel, all of that, it's going to allow you to take a 6-figure SEO agency and grow it to 7 figures and beyond. It's having followers, people that know you and trust you, that you can influence in a long-term way to continue to grow your agency. That's how a lot of people have taken a 6-figure agency and built it to 8 figures. Yes, the best time to start a YouTube channel was probably 10 years ago, but like planting trees, the second best time is today. But because of how long that will take, that is a long-term strategy. Start by just getting to a point where you have a good amount of free cash flow. A 6-figure agency, that's only $8,300 a month. If you're charging $1,500 a client, you really need 5 or 6 clients and you have a 6-figure agency. You can do that on just Upwork, just emails, just the Chamber of Commerce meetings. You can do that in just a few months, as long as you dedicate those months and maintain your consistency and discipline. Okay, hopefully you got some value from these answers. If you did, do me a favor, give me a like, give me a comment down below, tell me what you thought was valuable. If you have a question I didn't answer, go ahead and ask it in the comments and I'll address it there, maybe in a future video if it's a particularly good question. Building your agency to 6 figures and beyond, there's no magic bullet, unfortunately. It happens with, as I've said, discipline. It happens with consistency. But if you maintain that discipline and consistency, you can really have this 6-figure agency in just 3 months.